I think you're probably the only brew pub in the world, or only outlet in the world.
I think
where the employees have tattooed the logo on their body. And I also heard that they like the line of Sai Baba which says "Love all, serve all."
Yeah.
And I think it's on every Hard Rock cafe. They have some.
There are 4 values, Aashay. Love all, serve all, take time to be kind, all is one, save the planet. Wine is actually a living thing. We hold it like it's a baby, right? Because there is still fermentation happening in the bottle. You know, the mortality rate of the restaurants is about 65%, which means in the first year, in the second year, 65% of the restaurants shut down their business.
Welcome to this episode. In this episode, I have interviewed someone who's been part of the Indian F&B story for over 20 years now. He started his journey with ITC Hotels and eventually worked for brands like Hard Rock Cafe and Social. Eventually, he became an entrepreneur where he set up Asia's largest brew pub named Byg Brewski Brewing Company in the year 2018. He was also associated with Zomato, where he helped with the restaurant success vertical. We had a great chat and a very interesting conversation, and I hope you enjoy this episode too. On that note, let me welcome my guest for today, Mr. Pravesh Pandey. Welcome to the episode, Pravesh, and great to have you on this episode.
Thank you, Aashay. Looking forward for this wonderful conversation.
Looking forward to. So, Pravesh, there are a lot of things to talk about today, but let's begin with your roots and how you entered the world of hospitality.
So, I'm basically from a very small city, a city which is the oldest living city on planet Earth, called Varanasi. I had no idea about hospitality. I was one of those studious guys trying to get through the IITs. I was fairly well in physics, chemistry, and then somehow something just got stuck, and I didn't want to get into the rat race. My elder brother, who's a cousin, he referred me something called hotel management, and I had no idea. But I always envisaged myself going into a grand ballroom. I might have attended a sort of wedding with my families in a Taj Hotel, and that was somewhere deep subconsciously there in my life that, wow, this is a grand 5-star hotel.
Right.
And I wish I would like to be there.
Right.
Not sure in which form, but that was an inspiration. And then I filled the form of hotel management.
And this is late 90s?
This is, late 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 1997.
Okay.
1999 actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Joined hotel management, went through this whole process of sort of changing my own self, because when you come out from a small city to a bigger city, life changes. Went through a lot of challenges. From a vegetarian, I started converting myself to a non-veg because the hotel management. The first day was actually that there was a carcass of lamb lying on the table in the kitchen, and I was making my faces and I was holding my nose, and the faculty saw me. He said, "Here is your hand, put it inside, feel it. If you can't do this, then this is the day you have to take a call. Then go back." Right. And I thought, no, there is no looking back. I really wanted to do this. So I did my hotel management. I joined ITC Hotels as an assistant bartender. That was my first job.
Okay.
My first day at work was to clean glasses, wipe the glasses spotless glasses. Right? So that there was a meticulous way of cleaning glasses which was taught, and there was never looking back. I think that was the point in time when I realized that hospitality is where I want to be.
Got it.
Moved to Bombay, and from there I went to London, traveled across the world on a cruise liners, and then came back to Bombay, Delhi, and I've been a traveler, Aashay. I have just loved traveling. Somehow I have not been able to stick myself to one particular location, and hospitality it does in a form gives you an opportunity to keep traveling and exploring, because it's all about food, it's about people, it's about culture.
Right.
And it's never boring, because you're having happiness in the restaurant within the 4 walls. Customers are coming and laughing, and you don't get bored.
Right.
So actually I never got bored from the job, and I just got excited and thoroughly enjoyed this journey.
And when you were growing up, did you have any liking towards hotels, or were you interested in food, culture, people? Was that part of your growing up?
In first year of college, I was a very good chef in making.
Okay.
I was very good in cutting, chopping, and my faculty said that you want to be a chef, you will be a good chef. But when I went to in second year, we are supposed to do 6 months of industrial training, and I realized that in the kitchen, with due respect to all the chefs, we have to just work behind the scenes for 9-10 hours. My job was to cut onions and peel garlics for whole day, and to cut chickens in various forms, and supply it into different restaurants in the hotel.
Right.
And when I went into the restaurant side, I was super amazed. And the bar in the entire restaurant always attracted. When we started drinking, it was the first draft beer.
Right.
And then suddenly I used to see these single malt bottles on the display.
Right.
You can't taste, you cannot take out that one drop because it's so expensive.
Right.
You can't afford it. And people always used to say, hey, you can't touch this, it's for guests. So, we say, what resists still persists. So somewhere this whole bar thing got into my nerves, and I said, I really want to, be in the space. And it's in the second year of college is all about wines and liqueurs.
Okay.
And it's very living thing, right? And my first class in college was with the faculty called Anshuman Chatterjee. He's well-respected hospitality faculty. He first asked the question to all the people on the first day. He said, how many people have actually fallen in love?
Okay.
And nobody raised hand because, people are thinking, oh, this girlfriend is to be my girlfriend. And
it was late 90s and early 2000s.
It was late 90s
so
and people were shy.
Open.
Yeah. And we were like, why is he asking about people falling in love? And what happened was he asked everybody to leave because nobody raised hand.
Right.
Next week, he asked the same question. So half of the people raised hand, and then half of the people were asked to leave. The third week, we all came and then we said, why are you asking this question repeatedly? Right? And he said, it's all about, wine is actually a living thing. We hold it like it's a baby, right? Because there is still fermentation happening in the bottle.
Right.
And it's as good as experiencing romance. If you've never fallen in love, you will never feel what it is about. And F&B industry, food and beverage industry, is all about senses. It's all about feelings. It's all about emotions. It's all about the psychology, right? And that really got me hooked. And till today, I think that philosophy of emotions and senses and the psychology, whether it's customers or people, is so inherent in the industry that no other industry can actually compete with it. Like
true.
We have various industries, but in hospitality, it's all about people.
Exactly. Every day is different.
Yeah.
You have various customers, very different energies coming to your restaurant or your bar, and I was also listening to like one of the chefs who was talking about how he is very attracted to certain energies, and he doesn't like to work with people who don't have the same energy as him.
Absolutely.
And he also says that said about, if I am angry, then that emotion kind of shows in my food.
Oh, yes.
People sometimes don't like it, and we get immediate feedback.
Oh, yes.
So we have to keep the vibe of the kitchen in a certain way.
Absolutely.
For us to keep delivering, things in a certain, at a certain level regularly.
I cannot agree more with him. Whatever he said was fabulous. That's true. That's true.
Yeah. So Pravesh, my next question is around your professional experience, right? Because you've been in the industry for 20 years now. So it's good for us to split this into two parts, into two different decades. So where, 2002 to 2012, where you worked at various brands and including JSM Corp, which runs Hard Rock Cafes in India, Shiro's, and even a few other brands like Asilo that's currently in Mumbai. So that's part one, and then the part two is which I find very interesting is your transition from being in a corporate setup to becoming an entrepreneur in the F&B world. So let's split this into two parts and let's talk about the first decade, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, I think this actually goes back with the story which my grandfather taught me. He told me something very interesting. He said, Pravesh, in life, till about 28 years of age, we are in the process of acquiring knowledge, learning. Right? And we need to be like a sponge which need to keep absorbing. 28 to 35 is the time when whatever you have learned, without investing money, experiment. And it's like an entrepreneur stage. From a learning, you still are an employee, but you are getting into the space of experimenting, whatever you've learned. Like 28 tak theory samajh dete hain aap. 28 से 35 के बीच में आपको पूरी अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलनी चाहिए कि आप उस थ्योरी को प्रैक्टिकली एग्जैक्टली एंड इट्स एब्सोल्युटली ओके टू फेल एज मच एज यू फेल you will succeed further. And then he said the third phase is of between 35 to 55, which is the entrepreneur stage where you start putting your money, you start taking risks. That's the time when you have full confidence, experience, knowledge, everything together. And post 55, that's the security stage. Like that's where the wealth is being made, you're calmer, you're taking care of. I mean, it's not that you will not work, because if you are passionate about what you're doing, you will continue to working till the last day of your life. And I always took that as a center in the road of my career.
You had it at the back of your mind.
Till about 28, 30, the first 10 years of my career, I was only and only focused on learning. And for me, it was not about keeping, migrating from one job to another, staying in one place, understanding. So the first 10 years was tremendously focused on learning. And I got tremendous learning from cruise lines. I worked in a restaurant in Bombay. There was a restaurant owner who used to run a legacy restaurant since 1949. Wow. He taught me the philosophy. I used to call him Dad, Henry Tham. He's no more in this world, but he taught me the philosophy of F&B. He used to run a sexy boutique Asian bar and restaurant in Colaba, just before Gateway of India. Wow. Very polished, very upscale, had this own charm, and he has his own style. I always wanted to talk like him. I always wanted to be like him. And I kept questioning him. Every small little detail which I wanted to ask him about, he was always there between 3 to 5, having his own green tea and answering my questions.
So what was the name? What was the name of this bar?
Henry Tham, on his own.
Okay.
On his own name.
So he was an immigrant to India?
No, his grandfather came from China to Calcutta.
Like many people who migrated from China to,
yeah. And his father started a restaurant in Bombay where Raj Kapoor used to be very frequent guest. Till about, when I was working, I used to see Kareena Kapoor, Shah Rukh Khan, Aishwarya Rai. I remember Jodha Akbar was launched and there was a party. So there was a good profile crowd.
Right.
And the food, he took the entire team to Singapore to get them practical exposure of how to run a fine Asian restaurant. And then the bar was fabulous. So I was managing that place. Phenomenal learning with Mr. Henry Tham. Right from PR to customer communication to about wines to about how to choose a glass. Unknowingly, actually, he used to teach me everything about design thinking. When I graduated from there, and then I got myself in the second part of my life, when I started learning the principles, then I started relating that what design thinking is all about. What is the problem you are solving? Before you even pilot what you are trying to do, you understand the consumer behaviors, consumer needs. Is that a latent problem? Is it the actual problem? How is it that you are going to create an experience which people are going to say, hey, this is what I wanted to taste. This is what I wanted to hear. This is exactly what I never said, but this is what I wanted to eat, So I think the first 10 years also was very interesting because I was a part of this fabulous brand called Shiro, an in-house chain. It was the first outlet in Bombay. So post Henry Tham, I joined Shiro. It was the Buddha bar of India, let's say, if I have to explain the audience about it. Shiro was again a very upscale but a large place. And I always wanted to learn how to multiply restaurants faster. How do we bring in processes? What is it to become a leader who can manage an army of people? These are the questions which used to keep popping up in my mind when I was a restaurant general manager. In fact, I remember in Bombay, I used to go on Naukri.com and look at vacancies for vice president CEOs in restaurant chains abroad. And even in India, McDonald's and all, they're already there. So I used to I used to read the job description of such people to understand what is it that I have to do in the next 10 years. Because in this industry, nobody's going to teach you And it's fairly disorganized, right? Restaurants are unlike hotels; they're very scattered, fragmented.
Right. And there's a lot of routine. You don't really get enough time to review personal development.
Absolutely, yeah. So you have to do self-reflection.
Right.
You have to be critical about yourself, and constantly have a North Star, which can keep guiding you that this is the direction you have to go in.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm blessed that God has gifted me with the ability that I can have a North Star constantly in my own life. And that propels me from the bed every morning. For me, good is not exciting. For me, great is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I constantly redefine what great is in the restaurant industry is the North Star for me. And under that purview of vision, there is so many things which we have to get right. Isn't it?
Got it.
It's not just the food, it's not just the cocktails, it's not just the ambience, it's the vibe, it's the culture. Actually, hospitality industry is all about culture. It's all about, and actually Henry Tham taught me about this piece of culture. He said, Pravesh, religion is the biggest factor which creates culture in countries. And the advantage of culture is that two people who belong to a same culture will always feel connected.
Right.
It's like if you
speak the same language, helps you connect more.
Yeah, Aashay. And then he said, Pravesh, imagine two Sardars meet each other, strangers in New York, right? If they look similar, they will immediately say Sat Sri Akal. The language is similar. So I said, okay, looks are similar, language is similar. Then rituals. Culture, religion has rituals which make people together. A father will constantly teach his son, grandson, how to go to a temple or a gurdwara or a mosque, right? And the beauty of culture is that it's not recorded anywhere. It still gets passed from generations to generation. And I realized that organizations also are pretty much the same. But nobody has relatively thought and compared what religion does to the country is what a culture does in an organization to the people.
Right.
It should be so, yeah.
And at Henry Tham, you had that, it was a one restaurant setup.
It was a one restaurant setup.
And they could inculcate all of those aspects into their, food and dining experience. But when you moved from there to, say, a Shiro or to the parent company of Shiro, which operates like multiple restaurants, right? So how did that come about? Like, did you take any of the learnings from here and then try to apply them here?
So when you move from a smaller pond to a larger pond, there are a lot of challenges. There is, in organizations, there are processes, senior people, some amount of bureaucracy also seeps in.
Right.
And that's next learning which I had in the first decade. How do you still unlearn things? And it's a constant process. From a family-run restaurant to a corporate setup in a restaurant, which is multi-chain company, how do you fit yourself into that? So I had to fairly do a lot of unlearning. And then in the first 3 months, I actually wanted to resign because I was not able to enjoy that space. But in hindsight, when I look at it, I took the right decision of not resigning.
Right.
I fought, I hustled, and I said, the way forward is to constantly keep learning. And in that process, in that hardship, during that era, I really feel that I got polished. I learned more. I improvised myself. I became slightly more wiser in the decisions I started taking.
Because the scale was a little larger.
Yeah, and it was more data driven.
Okay.
The company from a restaurant which was run from a family style, moving into a slightly larger organization, I realized that. And I was also handling Hard Rock Cafe gradually, apart from Shiro. And then Hard Rock Cafe had this beautiful culture I have never ever seen. Till today, I think
and it kind of shows in the experience.
Yeah. I give a lot of credit to Hard Rock and a lot of gratitude to what Hard Rock has taught me. The founders, their story, the inspirations, the culture codes,
And I also heard that they like the line of Sai Baba, which says "Love all, serve all."
Yeah.
And I think it's on every Hard Rock Cafe. They have some.
There are 4 values, Aashay. Love all, serve all, take time to be kind, all is one, save the planet. I still remember it.
So that indeed was probably one of your best
yeah.
experiences then.
And then the best part about US based brands is that the dignity of labor is very high. In India, that was lacking. People
Absolutely. Especially probably in hospitality, right?
In hospitality, absolutely. Like as a bartender, you're respected in US, or a chef, you have been given that high regard. There's a lot of dignity of labor. India was not there yet. Till today, I think there is a lot which needs to be done in hospitality industry. However, Hard Rock did teach me the celebration of individuality. And from a suit guy, I became a casual guy, and I said, who am I? What is the purpose of me being in this world? And Hard Rock is a very spiritual brand. There are DVDs of Issac Tigrett, was the founder, and he's a follower of Sai Baba. In Whitefield here, there is a Satya Sai hospital based on the donation which he gave after selling Hard Rock Cafe.
I did not know this. No.
Interesting.
Very interesting fact.
So him and Peter, after making this successful brand, one they decided that they need to split the brand, and they opened a tissue paper in one of the bars where they were sitting. They designed the whole world map, and they put a line and said, this half part, North and South Americas belong to Peter, the rest of the world belongs to Isaac, and Isaac went through this process of selling the brand to another company. It was a tribe, the Seminole tribe in Florida. They used to own casinos and all. So they took over and Isaac came back to India. And he donated all his money to build the hospital.
Wow.
He's still there. You'll find him sitting in one of the bars. Maybe Windmill Craft, actually, if you go, you'll see him.
Oh, wow.
He sits there.
I didn't know about this at all.
Yeah.
The founder of Hard Rock Cafe is in Bangalore.
Bangalore, right?
Okay, you feel we don't know, but he might be.
Yeah.
Wow. That's quite interesting.
Yeah, and I got the privilege of meeting him twice. He always used to wear this shade. I wanted to see into his eyes. I asked him, "Can I see your eyes?" He said, "No." And I said, "Why not?" And I insisted, and he showed me, and his eyes was this deep green, ocean blue. It had some sort of energy which started attracting me. I was getting hypnotized, quite honestly. In that 7-8 seconds, I don't know what happened, but I said, thank you so much for creating a brand like that, which is changing lives of so many people across the world. Back then, there was about 183 cafes across the globe, and I was so impressed that how a culture is binding all the Hard Rock guys together across the globe.
And this is at scale.
At scale, worldwide.
Yeah. Wow.
And so yeah, great learning.
First decade seems to be, I thought the second decade was interesting, but the first decade seems to be even more.
There are a lot of challenges. Of challenges.
Okay.
I have literally a book which I think I can write. A lot of exciting stories in the first decade.
Okay. And then so after JSM, you moved brands and then
I came back to Bangalore, and Impresario was my next project.
So just for the listeners, right? So Impresario is an Indian-based company. It's an F&B group that runs Social, which is quite famous. These cafes are quite famous across India. They also run Smokehouse Daily. And they used to run Mocha before. I'm not sure if it still exists, but Mocha was a thing of the early 2000s.
Yeah.
People used to love it. It's run by an interesting entrepreneur called Riaz Amlani. I'll tell you something interesting. Mm-hmm. I used to go to the Social in Indiranagar, and after a point, one of the staff told me that I look very similar to Riaz Amlani. I said I may look similar, but yeah, I'm really looking forward.
Riaz is healthier than you.
Okay. Okay. So then after JSM, Impresario happened.
Oh yeah, and this whole that was exactly the time I remember when India was getting into this whole massive evolution through startups. There was a revolutionary change, a transformation happening in the country where startups were just popping out and people were just looking after valuations and fundings. And literally every nook and corner there was a startup. Somebody is trying to solve some problem. sitting in some flat, 2 BHK flat, and there is this tremendous change which I saw, and I saw this is a new face of India.
This is like 2012, 13.
13, exactly.
Yeah, that's when like Flipkart started. Yeah.
2013 was a time when
Myntra, Flipkart, all these other companies were starting to come up at that point in time.
Riaz is such an intelligent and a wise man. I again have high regards. I've learned a lot from him. He wanted to create a brand which is connecting to the soul of the then millennial, right? For me, that word millennial was like, wow, what is this? Who are millennials? And then I said, oh, there are baby boomers. And then this brand was designed to be so flexible, so cool, without any rules and regulations, celebrations, happiness. And then the concept of creating a place which is after your office, we used to call the second home, the second place, where there was also co-working space design.
Right. So in the mornings it was co-working and evening it used to turn into a bar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So this whole beautiful marriage of working with drinking and this coolness, which was perfect for the startup culture, worked very well. Social became overnight a success. It did more than 200% of sales, the first outlet. And then Riaz realized that he has cracked the code, which can be $1 billion code. And there was no looking back. And
the first social was the Bangalore Church Street social. So you were part of the pre-opening.
The pre-opening. I joined Church Street Social. Then the target was to increase the revenues, make sure the customer experience was not compromised, because Riaz was looking at expanding the chain. There was times when the valuation of the company was being forecasted. We were talking to some investors. For me, taking the graph upwards was the core focus for the next 6 months, which I did, frankly. And then I thoroughly enjoyed opening Whitefield Social and Kormangala Social. I was heading the business for the South. But yeah, the social, look at social as a brand, how beautiful it has been created. There was hashtag coolness, there was orange bright colors, tissue papers on the road.
Even the plates.
The
plates, the glasses.
There were a lot of haters also saying that it's a doggy plate, blah, blah, blah.
People also used to say that, I think they still say it, that we have not come to a jail that you're serving us food in those plates, you know, the aluminium plates.
Which we did change. But quite honestly, the definition of brand is when you design your product, where you say that I am someone for somebody, instead of saying I am no one for everybody.
Well said.
Right? You choose a certain audience and say, I am not going to please 100% population. I'm going to please, let's say, 30% population. And then you become the first in a category which you choose your game to be. And you excel in that. Correct? So we never said we want 40 years old, but people were coming.
Right.
Right.
I think still do. Of all
and I learned a lot about branding from there. Branding is not about advertising, PR, marketing. It's pure experience.
Right.
How your product and the experience is relating to the consumer psychology and behavior is what I learned in social.
So I also, we were talking about investors. I also, I think, read a few months ago, came across an article where I noticed that in Impresario, Louis Vuitton is one of the investors through another fund called Catterton, I think.
Correct.
Yeah, so they have a joint funding in Impresario. And that was quite interesting to know that, you know, Louis Vuitton has some sort of investment in an Indian brand which is doing so well. I think social is currently, I also heard that they're going to expand a lot across India.
Yes.
And now I'm starting to see, like in cities like Pune, Calcutta, people are using social as a suffix. It's not social, but they're using it as, you know, Calcutta social or the social or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's become such a brilliant brand that people are now using it to just get, you know, just get the audience in.
Yeah.
Although it might not be the same experience, but they are trying to, in some ways, just make a copy of that in some ways, right?
Yeah,
So,
like people have tried.
right,
However, what they cannot copy is the culture.
right.
And creativity, innovation mixed together with service and the ambience creates the culture. I think that's why social has been doing well. And now they're expanding in tier 2 cities as well.
Right, I heard there's one of that open in Indore.
Indore and
Yeah.
New BL Road they're opening now. Quite a lot of expansion plans are linked with social, but their Smokehouse Delhi is also great. For me, Impresario was an amazing experience because one side is Millennials and Smokehouse Delhi on the other side was playing its plain niche game of premium customers, having great focus on food. Similarly, it was earlier in Hard Rock Cafe, it's more casual. Shiro was very formal. Not formal, but yeah, upscale, premium. So I thoroughly had this privilege of enjoying working with brands in the same portfolio where the customer sets are different.
Right.
It gave me so much of freedom to paint my own paintings on the blank canvas. Every new outlet was something to look forward to. It was not like Starbucks or KFC's or McDonald's that is cookie cutter model. The ambience is different. The menu design is going to be different. Every outlet had this freedom of changing something and transforming. And that's what I realized, that organically, if you are letting the brand grow with the innovation and the creativity of people, it will constantly evolve. It will never get boring to a certain point. So even Church Street till today is doing great numbers.
Absolutely. Still does very well. And I think the deliveries are also very high from that outlet.
Thanks to COVID.
Right. And so Impresario happened. And after Impresario, is that after that you became an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so now this is the second decade,
Right.
which is
Right.
where I figured out that I need to start something. My first option was with Riaz, and I threw an option. But things didn't work out. I met someone else who I thought was a potential investor, and he said, Pravesh, come and see what I've done. This was the Byg Brewsky earlier in Sarjapur, which was already doing like 3-4 months in running, but it was not at all managed well. But the beautiful part of that place was that the ambience was fabulous.
Very good.
And
it had a water body. It still has a water body.
Like, who makes a pond in a restaurant? So I love my partner Ajay Gowda. He, from all the experiences which he has gathered in his past, he created a beautiful looking restaurant. And he said, Pravesh, you come on board. For me, obviously, it was taking a decision which can either spoil my career or it can build on my career. Nobody knew what Byg Brewsky was. I was already at a good space financially. If I would have stayed back in Impresario, maybe I would have become a CEO 4 or 5 years later. And moving from a known space to an unknown restaurant, I wouldn't even use the word brand, was a big risk for me. But I learned something in life, that the biggest risk is not taking risk. And I said, let's just go for it. If I'm confident about myself, I can definitely create something again.
So we came to the point where you are now, you entered the Byg Brewski Brewing Company, ensured that Sarjapur outlet does well. It has, the whole operating model has been revived, and then now you're invested in the company. So now you have said that we are going to open Asia's largest brew pub in Bangalore, in the northern side of Bangalore, in Hennur, where a lot of people don't really. I mean, there are not many F&B outlets on that on that side of the city. So this was a complete transition, right? Because in your Sarjapur role as well, you were not fully invested in the company, but you were working with them very closely.
Yeah.
But now you are invested in the company, right?
Absolutely.
So you've put in your own money. You are now in its true sense, you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You're a / promoter, right?
Correct.
So what was that transition like? Because I guess from a number standpoint, you probably 13 years you were working as a corporate executive.
That's true.
And then now you've transitioned into an entrepreneur. So what was that period like? how was that transition? What were the challenges during that period of time?
Yeah, I think more than challenges, the whole transformation, the word transformation is well chosen by you. People change, but I actually transformed. From who I was to what I became in this short 5-6 years of time was something which even I am very proud, but I'm not sure how it happened. I went through a lot of ups and downs, and in good ways. I think earlier, the first 10, 15 years in my life, 10 years, I think it was all about process, profits, numbers. And then it was about peace, people, culture. I became more wiser. Earlier, I was more knowledgeable. I used to speak a lot. I used to dress a lot. I used to party a lot. And I used to just feel that I'm a go-getter. And the second decade actually made me calmer, wiser, from a go-getter or go-giver, from profit-oriented lifestyle, focused profit-oriented lifestyle to a focused purpose-oriented lifestyle of what am I adding as a true value in this society. I did went through a sort of a spiritual enlightenment journey, which I couldn't even think about carving myself. I think it was a gift given by the universe to me to realize that the deeper purpose of me being in this world, and especially in this hospitality industry, is something else, not just earning profits for an organization. And there was so much of incidents and learnings and people whom I started meeting. The earlier imagine, we say that if you're wearing a shade which is brown color, the world will look brown. For me, getting that sort of awareness that I'm looking at the world in a different way started transforming. I started
So it was more on it was more like a knowledge versus wisdom kind of a debate in your mind, where knowledge is knowing
yes,
tomato is a fruit.
Yeah.
But wisdom is not adding it to a fruit salad.
Absolutely right. You nailed it, Aashay. I think that's what happened to me.
So that happened on a higher level.
Very high
And
level.
and on a day-to-day operating level, what changes did you have to make? Like, did you start to focus more on how balance sheets work?
Oh yes.
How do we manage? I'm sure you were managing manpower in the past as well.
Yeah. So from a daily ops, I started handling company ops, financial management, project management, timelines, funds, ensuring the return of investments. There were a lot of investors in Byg Brewsky. There still are. There was sort of unspoken pressures. There was a little bit of risk in everybody's mind. Anybody who knew that we are getting into this business where we are saying it's going to be a 1,200, 1,400, 1,500. We didn't even know how many covers we are taking out from that restaurant, but we said, hey, this is going to be the largest and biggest, and that too out of the city's core boundaries, the periphery of the city. And we were sure, and we were debating, like we had 50 rounds of discussion. I still want to share one discussion. So when I was talking to Ajay, Ajay had this fabulous idea that he wanted to make this large and more beautiful. And I really loved this because having experienced in Shiro and Social and Hard Rock Cafe, these are smaller restaurants between 6,000, 8,000 square feet.
Right.
Suddenly, we realized that there is a latent problem. The protagonist of the product was that the big places are actually 3 BHK or a small car. Offices were becoming more bays, real estate costs were going high. So we wanted to let people experience a resortish, airy space.
Right.
Within the city boundaries, maybe a little bit out, not too far. We did see that people used to travel during weekends to resorts to relax. And look at this world we are in. It's volatile, it's uncertain, it's ambiguous. We don't know. It's so complex, right? We're struggling every day. And then we want to just go out to a place where we want to unwind and relax. And bars do offer that. We wanted to complement that bars with a large space where you can sit longer.
Right.
maybe drive little longer and stay
Yeah.
there for more quality
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And when we say large, I just want to define large for our audience, right? This is 65,000 square feet.
Absolutely
Right.
right.
It's like probably like a stadium of sorts.
Yeah, mini
in some
stadium.
ways, and it has got a water body in between,
Yeah.
and you've got when it's evening, you've got those, the flames
Flames.
lighting up. So it's a proper setup where you're probably moved into a different world altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go wrong, Aashay. With that kind of investments,
right.
with this kind of expertise sitting together, we just couldn't go wrong. We couldn't afford a real estate in a city like that for a large place. It means we had to look forward for a property which is into a ever growing futuristic real estate belt. North Bangalore was that option.
Absolutely.
There was no second thoughts about it. But why so big? And with my cruise line experience, I traveled across the world and I saw almost all the wonders of the world.
Yeah.
The Great Wall of China,
Yeah.
or you look at Leaning Tower of Pisa, or the Eiffel Tower, or Taj Mahal. Look at them; they're all big. And suddenly, when you go to a space which is big, you take out your cameras and you want to say that I was here, right? And that feeling of I was here, and this is the big picture, and this is where I am, gives so much of sense of fulfillment to consumers.
Create memories.
Yeah, and create memories. So we knew that when we are going to create a large space, the jaw-dropping experience of customers walking into the door will be awestruck. And I know they will actually go gaga about seeing a place like that. However, the question in our minds was, how do we bring them back? People can come from South
Yeah.
Bangalore to North Bangalore, let's say JP Nagar once, but will he come back again is the question. What if after 6 months people have discovered this and they don't want to come anymore? That was a sort of a fear, but that fear was also fought. We ran against the fears with logic, and we said, okay, we are going to bring in experiences which are so international that people are never going to get bored.
Got it.
The place will be designed without keeping anything static. Flames which are moving,
Right.
water bodies which are moving, fish ponds which are moving, trees which are breezing with the breeze. You can feel there's something on your face.
Right.
So we couldn't go wrong. And then on top of that was combination of people and process.
Right. So just for me to summarize, one, during your transformation journey from being an executive to a promoter / owner, there was one at a spiritual level. You had to completely look at things in a different way. Then you had to look at the operating model.
Yeah.
You also had this ambition that you had where, okay, we want to open Asia's largest brew pub, but we also want to see how it runs as a proper business where people are not coming one time.
Yeah.
Over there. So it seems like there was ambition and there was also risk involved, but you had to somehow try to balance these things.
Yeah, so risk mitigation is what great leaders, executives try to do. And when professional mindset meets with business mindset, the combination is lethal. Ajay is a strong business-minded guy. I was a strong professional mind. We gave space to each other. The partnership had a great relationship. We knew that we are not intruding into each other's spaces, and we got this full freedom of creating what we wanted to create.
Right.
So I think that is the reason why the restaurant is doing well.
Interesting. So what's the story behind the name Byg, which is BYG?
Yeah. Oh, so that's very interesting. Earlier, the logo of Byg Brewski in Sarjapur was a smiley face with two sort of horns. Very funny. I was not convinced. These monsters, which were part of the story, was not really adding to a sort of a stability was not there in the logo, the brand, and we wanted to create something so masculine, powerful, which can exuberate a strong brand presence. We got in touch with a couple of our known friends in the branding state. They came and they helped us develop a better story. Obviously, a brand story is a reflection of what the promoter's behaviors are. So there was an extensive amount of research done with us, with 4 partners, and Byg Brewski actually is an average of all the 4 people's personality.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
So
Interesting.
Characteristics of the brand of Byg Brewsky, if you look at the logo, which I'll speak about in a couple of minutes, came out of a culmination of what the promoters are. And like, for example, I can just say that Aashay is very fearless, right? He likes taking risks. He is a daydreamer. He wants to fulfill his dream. I am a person who also am an explorer, traveler. I go to extreme areas where nobody goes. I like to take challenges in life. I like to create certain things. So the logo of Byg Brewsky is a Viking's personality, a deity who is from the Norse mythology, the Scandinavian region. His name is Byg Vir. If you Google it.
How do you spell it?
It's Bygvver. So if you Google Byg
Vir is also Hindi Vir, by the way.
but nothing
to do with Hindi.
So Byg Vir actually was the first person in the Norse mythology who was the first guy to create mead, which is the first form of beer.
Right.
And he was the person, we don't see him, we don't see any books writing, but Google and Wikipedia, there is some mentions of that. So we wanted to create a story and give an ode to a personality who moved nations by creating something which is today literally found across the world. People are drinking beers. We wanted to create the story very powerfully with that heavyweight Viking persona, masculine, ill-mannered. Brewery is like that, right? Big beard, tattoos, and that's what we wanted to, and we could so relate to that personality, right? We said, hey, this is all of us. And then we had to give beard in the logo. So the creative design agency made this hops. Carefully, if you look at the beard, is actually hops, and then there is this helmet.
Right.
And I have that logo here.
Oh, wow. You have a tattoo?
A tattoo.
Can you show it to the camera? Wow.
It's like this, yeah.
Wow.
We were so in awe with that logo that we saw and said, oh, we don't want to see anything else. This is it. And we are going ahead. Blue also stabilizes. A color, actually blue is a color which exuberates a lot of stability. Right? It's calm and it's not like red. So we chose blue. We changed the entire design, menus, the part of walls. Things started becoming more neater and cleaner and heavyweight, and that's where I think the brand story complements. So the story for BYG is that, and everybody every time they come to Byg Brewsky, they say, why is it BYG? And then on the walls we say, this is the story. So people read those stories. They relate to it, and they go back in an era where they feel that it's a forbidden city. Once upon a time it existed. There was this guy which is still brewing, So we always get inspired from the story there.
Got it.
It keeps us on track. Or as a brand custodian, I always realize that it's important to value the values of the brand, what we have created. We can't be called a romantic restaurant. We are not going to be celebrating Valentine's. We are not going to do things like that. And in the process, we learned how to say no to many things, which was very difficult for the restaurants. We will not do this. We will not do this.
You knew what you don't want to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We were very clear.
Yeah.
We said we are not going to do this because this is nothing related to the brand personality which we have created.
Got it. And when we talk about culture, so because you worked at Henry Tham, then you worked with JSM Impresario. So now you were setting up your own place. So what were those things that you considered to be very important as part of the culture at Byg Brewsky?
I got the core values of the company sorted out. My first primary focus was to get the core values of the company in place so that becomes a anchor for every new person joining in. We were very sure of what kind of people we wanted to hire. I had 3 requirements given to everybody who was interviewing. Guy needs to be high on volume, which means he can speak loudly. The second thing, he can speak fast, not dull.
So this is for your GM role?
GM or anybody.
Oh, anyone. Okay.
Anybody. In the entire company, high on volume, high on communication, and high on energy, right? If a guy, and we used to take interviews like, can you arm wrestle with me? And if you can win, then you are selected.
Really?
Yeah, like we wanted people with that fearless attitude. They said, "Yes, sir. I don't want. I'm not scared. I want to try." So that's what we started focusing upon. And we have done a lot of weird things.
Because now this was your playground, so you're like,
yeah,
okay,
we've done a lot of weird things.
I don't need to go by the rules.
But just to give you a testimony, there are about 32, 33 people who by themselves took the decision of getting the tattoo of Byg
Byg
Brewsky
Brewsky.
on themselves. And I was just amazed why people are doing this because
I think you're probably the only brewpub in the world,
I
or
think
only
so.
outlet in the world,
I think
where
so.
the employees have tattooed the logo
Yeah.
on their body.
And it happened over a period of time because when they started relating themselves, for them it was not about just coming and earning money. For me and for the people who were involved in Byg Brewsky, it was about chasing their own dreams. It was not about me taking advantage professionally or personal advantage with these guys. But for me, it was a sincere attempt to make sure that every employee in this organization grows with the company.
Interesting. So that kind of also shows in the culture. So I stay close to Byg Brewsky, so I've been there. Obviously, don't really like the traffic, so don't like to go to the central parts of the city all the time. But do go to Byg Brewsky, do order from Byg Brewsky as well. My parents love the food from there. So I've noticed that, be it the the dine-in experience, which is great. Everything is fast. Although there might be 2,000 people sitting over there on a weekend, but your dish never comes late to your table. So the operating model is such, or the culture is such, that people are quite fast there.
Absolutely.
And they do have customer experience at the core. So I noticed dine-in, it's fantastic experience. When we order, that experience is also great. And the reason I say that is because there is a handwritten note on every order that gets sent out.
Correct.
And that to me was, I've always seen influencers get these things, right? Where they stay at a hotel and they have like a special handwritten note, or you are staying at a St. Regis where your personal butler writes a note to you.
Correct.
But here it was personal, on a very personal level, with a phone number written there that if you have any issues, do call me on this number.
Yeah.
So that is something that I noticed from the delivery standpoint. And you also get like a coupon for you to go in and redeem a sampler when you go to Byg Brewsky next. Yeah. So what is it about culture, or what is it about? How do you have a seamless experience that's across your dine-in and also on your online side, on your online deliveries that you do?
There are two things, Aashay. One is culture obviously plays a role at a very holistic level, but processes obviously add value. And if we merge culture and process, where people in your team have been given the authority to experiment, I keep telling people that keep experimenting. Get me something new. I believe into creating. I don't want some idea which you have seen in your past organization which is coming. When the ownership in people is matched with the creativity and the processes are already there to support, magic will happen. Right? A lot of times we only used to talk about, earlier my designation I used to flaunt as Chief Belief Officer.
Okay.
Yeah. And my core idea was to create a belief system in people to understand that they're here for a purpose in this company. And the purpose is directly linked with the purpose of why they are born. Right? We say there are two most important days in your life. One, when you was born, and second, when you realize why you were born.
Why you were born.
Right. And for me, the entire cultural shift was to let people realize that they belong into this universe, in this called the great nothing. And you are small in this place as a small little employee, in a small little city, in a small little state, in a small planet Earth. Who are you and why are you here? What is your role in the evolution? From the business angle, the processes and everything is there, right? Incidentally, I want to share that during this process, I also went to Himalayas and I wanted to understand what's the purpose. I met this beautiful group of monks who were sitting in Spiti Valley's key monastery, and I was curious and I asked them, in this process of searching the purpose, and this whole solace I've created, I want to understand why am I here. And one of the monks said that, Pravesh, the reason why you are born is only three. You are born to learn, and then to earn, and then to return. And I said, yeah, I mean, I've been learning last 10 years, 12 years has been amazing learning. I'm earning decently well. I can get more, but I don't know what to return. And he said, whatever you have in abundance, you can return. I said, I don't have money in abundance. Then he said, what else? And I said, maybe I have in abundance learning.
Right, experience.
Can I return that? He said, of course. And when I came back, then I realized that profit earning is an outcome of earning the purpose. And if that organization's purpose is one common purpose, then everything else gets sorted out. When you are clear that your mission in life is to craft, and crafting is very like a painstaking effort, you are doing it yourself. So crafting experiences. And how do we craft experiences is by creating memories. What are memories? Memories are either very positive or extremely painful. And they stay, these incidents stay with you for a long time. And I kept saying this, that we are no more in the era where customer satisfaction is what we are chasing. We are in the era where customer delight, and that comes with extraordinary memories,
Right.
is what we have to create. So think about a moment which you remember in your life, the oldest, and this is what I was talking to my employees, the oldest memory was when you were 4 years old, 6 years old, when you got a bicycle gifted, or you've got some family, things, or rituals during festival. So that's how memories are created. And you know what? With this whole conditioning which I did with people, there are a lot of firsts which automatically started happening by people. This handwritten note we were talking about started in Sarjapur by somebody.
Okay.
A hostess who was then transferred, and there was this manager called Ritesh who said, sir, we want to do this. I said, wow, that's a fantastic idea. How will you do it at scale? He said, no, sir, we will do it. I said, great, do it.
Wow.
Like,
Because
you can print it, but he said, sir, wo charm nahi rahega.
Yeah, that's true.
And then,
And it's quite interesting how they manage it, because the number of online orders that Byg Brewski does is very high.
And it's been growing.
Yeah, it's been
And
growing.
these guys are still following.
And probably keep growing.
Maybe 7 years that they've been doing this, and it's become a part of the culture. Similarly, there have been many new things, like the FIFA event which we did, was to create a stadium inside a restaurant. There were 3,500 people.
Yeah, I want to come to that. But that's a very specific question I want to ask.
Sure, we'll pack it for the later.
Yeah, we'll pack it for later, and I'll come to it right now.
Okay.
So we've gone from you transitioning into an entrepreneur, then how you set up the organization, the culture, ensuring you have seamless experience across, be it online, offline, takeaway, whatever, right? So now this part comes in where you're trying to drive engagement, right? So you want customers to come back, and you're probably looking at events like football or cricket,
right,
or even Game of Thrones that I have heard about in the past. So how do you match creativity with also not match, but you have a creative idea that you want to implement, but you also have to ensure that you're making money. So how do you work out a particular event? Like what goes behind the scenes when you're planning an event?
So very interesting, Aashay. I think let me talk about myself. Before even I get into the understanding of making money, for me, the question is whether this event or / experience which I'm going to create is going to create virality. Are people going to buy this story? Instead of me saying, oh, I want to make money, so let me get a DJ, I'll make money, right? For me, it's always about creating memories. And this word, which most frequently we are using, the creativity part, is very rare. Quite honestly, it's very rare. We don't, even at money, I don't get creativity. I have paid people, but I don't get this whole, and this is something which I'm sharing from my experience, that in Sanskrit there's something called niti niti, which means neither this nor that. People generally say, oh, either this or that. I say, I don't want this or I don't want that. I want something else. So you constantly are in the space where you say, I don't know, I'm not liking these options, but I am somewhere, something else is going in my mind, right? Something is, as a sixth sense, evoking you to try experiencing something which will become a rage, virality. Like people should start sharing this piece of information saying, this is happening and we must be there. In a way, it should create FOMO. So example, the football thing which we did, or the Game of Thrones thing, we never compromise on the experience part, right?
Let's take Game of Thrones example.
Let's take Game of Thrones example. So I was, in social days when I was working, I was binge watching Game of Thrones. And it grew on me so much, and somewhere it was still Nordic, that same vibe, and I always wanted to make that Byg Brewski kind of theme. The first one we did in Sarjapur, in a lower budget, we got a fabulous response. But the second one, actually I got horses, I hired men.
Wow.
I painted, the horses were black, but the legs were brown. I painted their legs to make it black. We created barrels of, we got some barrels. I'm still going back. The spent which was on the event was about 8 lakhs just to create that experience. The tables, we got Chef Sabi, and I said, Chef, this has to be the most iconic menu. There were 33 different types of meats on the menu. It was a sit-down set course. We watched the series again and again.
Yeah,
took screenshots of small little details, whether it's glasses or plates or the tables or the Kingsley feast. A lot of research was done. Even in cocktails, Karthik did a fabulous job in terms of making smoke and things like really coming out nice.
So Karthik is the person who manages the bar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
So
all the teams basically came together to ensure that you deliver on this particular event and drive that experience.
There were sharks on the table. There were roast rack of lamb and roast porks. The meat was imported from Norway. The Atlantic space offers you a lot of good seafood. We got all that there. And I was very sure that we are going to create a historic experience.
But before you did it, from a planning standpoint, you obviously had to get all your teams together. You had to work with external partners. And did you have an average return on investment that you
We made marginally. Yeah, because the cost of food was very high. And this was still not to make major money.
Right. But to have...
To satiate,
to
create creativity in the team, to make sure guests are coming who are the most frequent, regular, loyal customers, to bring them there, and people who have always presumed that Byg Brewski was all about beers and casual food also saw the other side of us, that we were potential. Because of that, we started getting outdoor catering orders. And the culinary expertise which we had inside the team really came out. It outshined, and people were just awestruck when they walked into that restaurant.
So
but for me, the commercial business models, Aashay, is more like the football event. You make tons of money in events like that. So
Game of Thrones was not a first event. You probably had done events
before. It was
before,
a second in series, yeah.
Oh, it was okay.
Yeah.
So, but you do keep doing events every year.
Yeah, but then COVID happened, and we are waiting for Game of Thrones to come back. People are forgetting that. I think the new series is just launched.
Right. So you're going to do IPL and like football games.
More than IPL, I think we wanted to also. We did something with cricket, but football was not done like this.
At this scale.
Yeah, at this scale.
Yeah.
Like people in India talk about cricket, but nobody talks about football. So we said, why shouldn't be? So my partner, Rolf, he is a footballer. And he said, Pravesh, let's do it. I said, do you think people will come? First, let's understand, is this a big problem you're solving? And he said, yeah, there is a big potential. And I said, okay, cool. So with that inspiration, I started stitching the story of what the event is going to be all about and what is the reason why people will drive all the way from Bangalore. And the simple reason was that if you create a stadium experience,
Right.
actually, then you've nailed it.
Yeah.
For us, it was all about stadium experience.
And Byg Brewsky is large enough to drive that experience.
Oh yeah, the
It's
space,
huge.
the space
Yeah,
has
the space is
the
huge.
advantage.
Yeah.
But the first principle was, what are the things we have to do in low cost to create a solid experience which is as good as the stadium and still make money out of it. And the biggest screen which we had to put became very popular during that era. I remember we did 1 month of marketing. Budweiser came in. Earlier they thought some 300 people will come in, and Budweiser was the global sponsor, but then they jacked in more money. They said, okay, let's go there. We got some 10 drones distributing Bud cans in the air to people. There was a massive, gigantic 65 feet screen which was displaying the live match. We got licenses to telecast the live match. It was an outstanding experience. For me that day, I realized that the true potential of this place, I really wanted to know how many people can fit in, like packed. So that was about 3,500, 3,600 odd people. New Year's, then we did 4,000 just after that.
In some countries, that's the population of a city.
Yeah, quite possible.
But wow. So I now want to come and move ahead and talk about data science. It's an interesting topic across
It is.
industries, and we are seeing that even the restaurant industry or the F&B sector, for that matter, has been leveraging data, and there's an edge that a lot of brands have created for themselves. Namely, Behrouz Biryani,
Right.
and Fasos and Oven Story, which is owned by a single company. So they have leveraged data to their benefit, and same goes with, say, Eat Fit, which is Cure Foods. Cure Foods has ended up also acquiring a lot of brands. So my question is that do you see that data science is being taken seriously now by smaller restaurants as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think of lately in the last 5 years, I have seen an influence of data into the owner's mind in a way which I have not seen in the last 15, 20 years. I would like to also explain this why and how things have been improvised in the last 5 years. So, the mortality rate of the restaurants is about 65%, which means in the first year and the second year, 65% of the restaurants shut down their business.
So it is one of the industries with the highest failure
Highest mortality rate. Like you know that restaurants are shutting down in smaller places. And during COVID, especially, the ones who couldn't survive were the ones who were the smaller guys who did not have data backup. They did not have strategies to exploit, whether it was delivery or whatever else. And I think if I'm not wrong, on TripAdvisor, pre-COVID in Bangalore, there was about 12,500 chain restaurants, which now is about 7,800 or 8,000. So imagine
It's
about
almost
25...
45%.
No, 20. I think about 25 for 30% restaurants are suddenly out, and these are the small little outlets, right?
Right.
They couldn't take the second wave's hit, right? And the reason why is it happening is because of the low entry barriers in the restaurant industry. Anybody can open a restaurant, and the ones who open a restaurant thinking that they are great cooks or they are passionate about food and can easily open a mom and pop shop are good enough to take the brand for the next 1.5 years. And I'll explain you why, Aashay, because they use personal intelligence to open restaurant. Their ways of
Right.
cooking food, their
Right.
ways of, decorating a cafe.
Right.
And till about 1.5 years, I'm putting that point at 1.5 years, the personal intelligence gets exploited, and then they reach a stage where they don't know what they don't know. They get themselves into a loop where they start trying. They start trying to figure out where is this customer's not coming back, why is it not coming back, and then they don't know what's going wrong. And the second year onwards, they feel that there's no point doing the business, right? Lucky are those ones who open into places which are flourishing with real estate going up, influx of people, population getting better. But the ones who survive post 1.5 years, that point, are the ones who realize that apart from personal intelligence, there is scientific intelligence also important. And that scientific intelligence is the power of customers' data, which you have not been capturing if you were not organized since the opening. Post 1.5 years, you neither imagine you are not sitting on a customer data. You don't know you have a POS capturing the data of customer. You don't know what is trending in your restaurant. You don't know what are the fastest moving items, what are the non-selling items. You have no idea how many birthdays and anniversaries your customers have been having in this coming week. You really have no control over whatsoever. And then you think, oh, should I change my food menu? Should I fire my staff, get a new chef? Or should I repaint the place?
You're
know
all
what I'm
over the
saying?
place in terms of
Yeah.
thought process,
So it's
or
important
even
to-
decision making.
Even decision making,
Yeah.
it just becomes very blurry.
I'm going to shift gears a bit here. So you are associated with Zomato, and we
Yes.
were talking about restaurants. So
Yep.
you're working with them on the restaurant success bit.
That's right.
And you have a lot of ground experience as well. So you've started in 2002 at an entry level role, and then obviously rose, and at a leadership level. So I was just going through LinkedIn, and I was just seeing people you might be working with, right? In your experience with your association with Zomato. So and most of them have as people say, I don't like the term, but people say pedigree. So they say, okay, they're probably from the IITs or the IIMs, or they have worked in consulting. So they've worked with, say, the best consulting companies out there. So on one side we have you, on one side we have people from the pedigrees, right? So what are those debates that you would have where both sides have logical arguments?
Yeah. Funny, by the way, I think I understood the question when I first joined Zomato. We were talking two different languages. And for me, it took like 3 months to just absorb the language they're speaking. I have tremendous amount of respect for people who come with these pedigrees. And most of the people are from IIT, IIMs, and such great colleges. The amount of logical reasoning which they bring on the table is fabulous. You cannot question, you cannot argue, you cannot debate. That principles which they use to come to a decision-making stage is mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. I have learned this, and I will humbly accept this, that one thing I learned in Zomato is the ability to use data to come to a conclusion. Right? No decision. It's a very favorite thing in Zomato. Is this your opinion or is this data? And that culture has taught me that restaurant industry works only with opinions.
Right.
That one thing I have learned. And in this process, there is sometimes debates which is the practical side of the business versus the theoretical side of the business. The consulting part of the business versus the real problems of the business. So I complement them in a sort of marriage where, as a restaurateur, before things come out from Zomato to the rest of the world, the rest of the country, I clean it up. I give them the right product, direction. And I think the effort has been to understand the real problem and empathize what the restaurant industry has been facing. Some problems are so complex that it cannot be solved overnight, but few problems can be directed to a larger vision of solving restaurant industry's problem. In Zomato or Swiggy, I'm sure everybody is dedicated to solve the restaurant partners' problems of making them profitable, right?
Right.
But the restaurant partners also need to value this. However, this combination of this pedigree versus practical, it sometimes gets into frustrated argument, but because the maturity levels is so high, we somehow come to a decent conclusion.
Got it.
And it's good fun, by the way. It's great fun. They respect us, and like the guys who have not opened restaurants, they come in the team and they talk to me and they take my feedback. They give the due respect from the experience which I'm coming from. I give the respect, and then together we are trying to make a difference.
That's nice. So it just brings me back to what we spoke some time ago, which is they have the knowledge and you have the knowledge plus the wisdom. So it seems like it's a culmination of the two.
Yeah, then only I think the companies like Zomato will flourish.
Right.
If they start seeing things from the behind the eyeballs of restaurant owners, then only things will happen.
Right.
And I think there's a long way to go there with a lot of influence yet to come into larger organizations like that.
Got
And
it.
both the companies are hell-bent on bringing that sort of experience in the restaurant ecosystem to make restaurants really successful. We have tons of work which we have done. I have personally done a lot of work in Zomato to help restaurants succeed. And a lot depends on helping them understand the data and the inferences they need to take out.
So, Pravesh, where do you think the restaurant industry is heading in India? Like, where do you see it in 2032, 10 years from
Yeah,
now?
so 10 years, interestingly, this last 6 months have been absolutely amazing. Based on the last 6 months trend, I can bet every single restaurant in Bangalore or in India has been doing the highest sales ever because of many restaurants have shut down and the demand has increased, the supply has reduced. With this, what is also happening is that people are getting into the frequent habit of ordering more, going out more. And this is not going to stop. Once you get into the habit and the loop, you will continue going out. And we always compare India to US and Singapore and see that. I'll give you a couple of examples.
Sure.
Like Vietnam, in delivery platforms, people order the most frequent orders of food. People in China, they go out 7 to 8 times in a month for dining restaurants. Singapore, people are eating 60 meals outside their home per month.
Wow.
Right? In India, the dependency of house food, home food, healthy food, because of the way we have been grown up,
Right.
बाहर का खाना ठीक नहीं है,
ठीक नहीं है, healthy
वो
नहीं है.
अभी भी है,
Yeah.
right?
Even the doctors don't recommend it. Like,
Exactly,
even to that
exactly.
level. Yeah.
But scientifically अगर आप देखो तो घर का खाना भी हेल्दी नहीं है, कोई इतना ज़्यादा मिर्च मसाला बनता है घरों में और कहीं मतलब I'm not
Right.
stereotyping it, but
Right,
I'm just saying that healthy is a very subjective word. Right? If you have a balanced diet, then it's healthy.
Right.
However, what India is going through now is an understanding where people are shifting to vegan, people are shifting to health, they're more becoming conscious about not abusing their body. So they're going out and eating. At the same time, there is this huge disposable income which is increasing where people are also going out and drinking, which is Wednesdays are new Saturdays, right? Mondays, Tuesdays, restaurants are packed. There is waiting going on in large format restaurants. I was surprised.
Right.
Without naming.
Yeah.
And I'm happy.
Yeah, without naming, I have also seen all 7 days, some restaurants are packed.
Yeah, so it's a good time,
Yeah.
actually. And this is not going to stop. People who have saved money during COVID have not traveled out, still are taking that money in, spending that money into restaurants and bars. After all, that's the only place where after home they want to unwind and relax and talk and socialize. So restaurants industry is going to flourish. Dining industry is going to flourish. Still Bangalore has about 60, 70, 80 bars capacity to be opened, new bar capacities. The city can still absorb that much. And we are not going anywhere. This industry is going to survive for a very long time. 2032, the industry is going to come back to the earlier CAGR rate of 22%. About 10 years ago, 22% was the compound annual growth rate, which was like literally 4 years or 5 years, the industry was doubling up. 2032, exactly that's going to happen. The ones which will be smart enough to understand that data and inferences of data is leading to a process-oriented company, they will survive for long term. The ones who are just passionate are not going to survive, but consumers are going to play around on the choices of delivery platforms, and they will also enjoy the choices of restaurants, dining, bars, cafes. So we are in a very good time. If somebody really is looking up to getting into a restaurant, I think the next 10 years are very interesting.
Got it. Do you think the trend for microbreweries will stay though in 2032?
Far-fetched, I think after 4 to 5 years, with the local dynamics of rules changing of the land, there will be a tremendous scope of tap rooms and taperies which will come up. They will take away the brewery culture, because literally every bar will start serving craft beers.
Right.
And there will be bars which will be serving 30, 40, 50 different types of styles of beers.
Wow. I think we've already started to see that. There are some microbreweries
Yes.
who have started to send their beer to other local bars as well who don't produce beer.
Yeah.
And they're offering a crafted beer produced in Bangalore in different bars as well. So they're not restricting their beers to their own bars only.
Yeah, and the big players also have started getting
Yeah,
into
the big
this
players.
space.
Yeah.
Like,
That's right.
yeah, so I think this is a good, exciting times. Imagine every local neighborhood bar will have 20 types of craft beers 5 years down the line. You will, and Bangalore is the capital for beer, craft
absolutely.
beers. So, see, look at US. We are 1.5%. The craft beer sales 1.5% sales in India. In the overall beer sales in US, that is 17%.
Wow.
So, if in particular, if you want to know about how the craft beer industry will look like, I think there's tremendous potential, especially in Bangalore.
You think probably it'll mirror the American?
It will. It's on the same lines.
Got it.
People in Bangalore are in love with fresh, craft, healthy beers, and they feel that over an afternoon, over a casual lunch, even in office, it's good to have a beer. And there is no harm. People are still loving it.
Yeah. Do you know the number? How many microbreweries do we have in Bangalore?
About last I remember was 63.
63. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to let our audience know, because obviously everybody is not from Bangalore, but Windmills Craftworks, they've opened an outlet in Texas.
I know, Dallas. Yeah.
So, which is quite interesting, because we've always been used to the idea of other F&B brands opening outlets in India, but here we have a craft brewer which has actually now gone to the US and set up shop there. So that was an interesting fact as well that I got to know. And yes, I think Bangalore with 63 microbreweries, I think it's on a different level right now. It's probably the place for people to experiment if they ever want to go long term in this.
We all will be here. And even 5 years down the line, we will see how the industry is flourishing. I personally am super excited. And I wish all my best to all the restaurants, budding restaurant owners, the guys who have been there in the business. They are all going to have great, exciting times.
Right. Okay, on that note, Pravesh, it was great talking to you.
Absolutely, Aashay. Thank you so much for inviting me here, and been privileged to have been talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Have a great day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Bye.